Did you know that the Daewoo Lanos could have become the main competitor to the Volkswagen Golf and even slightly pushed it aside in some markets? This car appeared in the 90s, survived the manufacturer's bankruptcy, changed a bunch of names, and even after the official end of production, it was still produced in Ukraine for a long time. Lanos is the kind of car that was bought to drive, not to fix. Its engine could outlast 3 generations of owners, and repairs cost less than a new phone. But how did Lanos even come about? Why was it so loved in Ukraine? And what caused the end of its era? Let's figure it out. You are on the Info Uncle channel. If you're interested in exploring new horizons, like, subscribe, and let's dive into the history of technology. In the 90s, the South Korean company Daewoo decided to create its own people's car. At that time, the Volkswagen Golf, Opel Astra, and Ford Escort were very popular in Europe, and the Koreans wanted their own equivalent, affordable, simple, and convenient. But the problem was that Daewoo did not know how to develop cars independently. They only copied and modernized General Motors models. Therefore, to create the Lanos, they had to involve the best engineers and designers in the world. The design was entrusted to the Italian company Italdesign, led by the legendary Giorgetto Giugiaro. He is the very man who designed the Ferrari 50 GT, Maserati Bora, BMW 1, and even the first Volkswagen Golf. The idea was simple: to create a stylish, reliable, and affordable hatchback or sedan. In 1995, the first concept appeared, and by 1997, the Lanos went into mass production in South Korea. But very quickly, its production began to be transferred to other countries, and by 1998, the Lanos started being assembled at the Zaporizhzhia car factory. Initially, the cars were assembled from complete knockdown kits that came from Poland or Korea, but each year, localization increased. More parts began to be produced directly in Ukraine, and by 2005 or 6, the Lanos at ZAZ was almost entirely of Ukrainian production. Gasoline engines of various modifications were produced at factories in Korea, Poland, Romania, and the Melitopol motor plant in Ukraine. Speaking of the Ukrainian Lanos, it was the car that seemed very simple, yet at the same time was a successful option for our roads and our budget. When you got behind the wheel of a Lanos, you didn't expect anything special from it, but it surprised you by honestly doing its job, taking you where you needed to go and not demanding too much in return. The engine was most often an 8-valve 1.5 gasoline. All Lanos engines are transverse 4-cylinder inline with a distributed electronic injection system. They are similar to Opel engines that were used in the Kadett E and Aksana. Their downside is increased fuel consumption in the city cycle. It drove calmly, didn't rush, but also didn't let you down. That's exactly why it was loved. It started in the cold, wasn't afraid of bad gasoline, and easily handled gas. By the way, the Lanos was very often converted to gas, and it was perhaps the best choice for a taxi driver or a rural resident. The gas was installed without problems. It drove for a long time and cheaply. As for the suspension, soft, comfortable on bumps, but at high speeds, the car swayed a bit. On the highway, you had to hold the steering wheel with both hands. Not the option where you can relax. But in the city or on a country road, it was just what you needed. The trunk in the sedan was quite spacious, and if you folded the rear seats, you could fit half a summer house. The interior was painfully simple, no trendy screens or soft plastic. Everything is minimalist but functional. The dashboard showed only the essentials: speedometer, temperature, fuel. Comfort for the money was more than sufficient. Of course, the seats were a bit firm, and there was almost no lateral support, but they were adequate for short and medium trips, and there was enough space. It was comfortable in the front, a bit cramped in the back, especially if the driver was tall, but overall tolerable. The weak point of the Lanos is the body. The metal was thin, and the anti-corrosion treatment was weak. The hatches, seals, and underbody all started to rust if not protected. There were drivers who applied mastic once a year or welded the seals. Then it lasted longer, but some neglected it, and after 5 years you could poke a hole with a finger. And of course, the safety here won't be great. Lanos scored very few points in crash tests. Many versions didn't even have a single airbag, but back then, few people paid attention to that. The main thing was that the car drove. But despite all the drawbacks, this car truly became a part of Ukrainian life. It was chosen not because it was beautiful or prestigious, but because it worked. It was easy to repair in any garage. Spare parts were sold at every market. It could carry a family, legs with potatoes, sometimes even weddings. It was not spared and it endured it. Lanos is like an old Nokia 3310 among cars. It doesn't shine with design, but it always works and withstands everything. And most importantly, it was ours, Ukrainian. It was assembled in Zaporizhzhia, driven by millions. And even now, there are still plenty of them on the roads. This car has character, history, and that warm, familiar feeling when you sit behind the wheel and know it will still go on. What memories does this car evoke for you? Leave your comments. We would be very grateful for your subscription and like, and stay tuned for the continuation of the story of our Ukrainian automotive industry. This was your Info Uncle. See you